Lieutenant Kessa Varyn had been lost in darkness for 3 days. 3 days since the electromagnetic pulse fried her shuttle systems. 3 days since the crash scattered her crew across Umbral 9's perpetually dark forests. 3 days of wandering through bioluminescent alien growth that provided just enough light to see shapes but never enough to navigate safely. Her Thessian eyes, large, reflective, designed for bright daylight worlds, struggled uselessly with the darkness. Depth perception failed, distances warped. Every shadow could hide predators or cliffs or her lost crewmates, and she had no way to tell the difference. Her supplies were nearly gone. Her communication equipment was dead. Her crew, Commander Haleth, Engineer Tyros, Medic Syria, could be anywhere in the hundreds of square kilometers of forest surrounding the crash site. Or they could be dead. She'd been calling their names for 3 days and heard only alien forest sounds in response. On the 3rd night, exhausted and beginning to accept she might die here, Kessa saw something impossible through the darkness. Light. Not the cold blue-green of bioluminescent plants, but warm yellow-orange. Fire. Artificial light. Someone with technology that still worked. She stumbled toward it desperately, her legs barely obeying, tripping over roots she couldn't see in the darkness. The light was moving, someone carrying a lantern, walking with purpose. She tried to call out, but her voice was hoarse from days of shouting. The figure stopped, turned. Even at distance, Kessa could tell from the build, human. She felt brief disappointment. She'd hoped for her own people. But survival mattered more than species. She stumbled forward, and when she finally reached the human, she collapsed at his feet in complete exhaustion. Looking up at his face illuminated by lantern light, she saw something unexpected, not surprise or annoyance but relief, like he'd been searching for someone lost and was genuinely glad to have found them. "Lieutenant Kessa Varyn," he asked in accented but clear Thessian Survey Corps. She could only nod, too exhausted for words. "I'm Dr. Marcus Webb, Human Research Station. We've been looking for you since we detected your distress signal 3 days ago." He offered her water and his smile was gentle. "You're not lost anymore, I promise." Kessa drank the water and tried not to cry. In 3 days of crushing darkness, those were the first hopeful words she'd heard. Marcus radioed back to his station, reporting survivor found and requesting extraction coordinates. But there was a problem. The electromagnetic interference was getting worse. The shuttle's crash had damaged containment around underground mineral deposits, turning the entire region into an expanding dead zone for electronics. "Extraction team can't fly through it," Marcus explained, his expression serious. "We need to walk out, get beyond the interference radius before rescue can reach us, about 2 days through the forest." 2 more days in darkness. Kessa felt panic rising. Marcus must have seen it because he adjusted his lantern to cast more light, pulled out a spare flashlight and handed it to her. "We'll take it slow. I've been mapping these forests for 2 years. I know safe paths where the predators hunt, where we can shelter. You won't be alone in the dark, I promise." The simple declaration, "You won't be alone," nearly broke Kessa completely. She'd been alone in crushing darkness for 3 days. This human stranger was offering to guide her through more of it. She didn't know if she could trust completely, didn't know if his light would be enough. But staying here alone would kill her. "My crew," she managed. "We have to look for." "Search teams are covering the entire crash zone," Marcus said gently. "Right now, my priority is getting you to safety. Once we're beyond the interference, they can expand the search with proper equipment. But I need you alive and functional to help coordinate that search. Okay." It made horrible sense. Kessa nodded. They began walking. Marcus set a sustainable pace, checking frequently that Kessa could keep up. He talked as they moved. Not meaningless chatter, but useful information about terrain, ecosystem, his research station. His voice was steady, grounding, and Kessa realized he was doing it deliberately, giving her something to focus on besides oppressive darkness. When her flashlight died an hour in, battery drained from days of overuse, Kessa felt panic rising again. Marcus didn't hesitate. He adjusted his lantern, positioned himself so its light illuminated her path. "Stay close. My light's enough for both of us." And somehow, impossibly, it was. Kessa walked in the circle of his lantern's glow, following this human stranger through alien darkness, and felt something like hope stirring for the first time in 3 days. The journey became both physical trial and gradual revelation. Marcus guided them through bioluminescent forests with the confidence of someone who'd studied them obsessively. He pointed out safe routes around predator territories, knew which plants indicated solid ground versus bog, read the landscape like humans read star charts. Kessa struggled. Her Thessian physiology wasn't built for this. Eyes failing in darkness, depth perception gone, exhaustion making every step feel like climbing mountains. But every time she stumbled, Marcus was there, catching her elbow, steadying her, waiting patiently while she caught her breath. He shared supplies without hesitation. Food, water, thermal blanket during rest stops. Most importantly, he kept his lantern burning, that circle of warm light like protective barrier against crushing dark. They talked during rests. Kessa told him about her crew, Haleth's terrible jokes, Tyro's engineering genius, Syria's singing during long watches. She described the crash, the scatter, her desperate search through darkness that revealed only more darkness. Marcus listened without platitudes, acknowledged her fear and guilt without minimizing them. He told her about his own isolation, choosing Umbral 9 specifically, because its darkness appealed to someone running from too bright memories. He'd lost his research partner 2 years ago in an accident, blamed himself, buried himself in work on the darkest world humanity had mapped. "I came here to hide in shadows," he admitted during one rest stop. "But darkness without purpose is just despair. So I made purpose, understanding this ecosystem, becoming someone who could guide others through it safely." "How do you give darkness meaning?" Kessa asked. "By being the light someone else needs to find their way through it." The answer was simple but profound. Kessa realized that's exactly what he was doing, not just literally lighting her path, but providing hope, guidance, proof she could survive this. On the second day, they encountered one of Umbral 9's apex predators, a creature hunting by electrical field detection, circling just beyond the lantern's radius. Marcus didn't panic. He adjusted the light to cast sharper illumination. The predators avoided brightness and guided Kessa backward to rocky terrain where it couldn't follow. His calm kept her calm. His light kept them safe. Hours later, when Kessa's hands finally stopped trembling, she asked why he was doing this. Why risk himself for a Thessian stranger? Marcus's answer was devastating in its simplicity. "Because 3 days ago, I detected your distress signal and knew someone was lost out here. And I've been lost in darkness before. Nobody should have to find their way out alone." On the third day, they reached the interference zone's edge. Marcus radioed ahead confirming extraction coordinates. Rescue shuttles were en route, both human and Thessian vessels. But there was news. Difficult news. Search teams had found wreckage but no other survivors. Kessa was, as far as anyone could determine, the only member of her crew who made it out of the immediate crash zone alive. The information broke something in Kessa. She collapsed to her knees, grief crashing over her in waves. Her crew, her friends, were gone. She survived when they didn't. Marcus didn't try to fix it. He sat beside her in darkness, kept his lantern burning steady, let her grieve. When she finally had words again, she asked, "How do you live with it, with surviving when others don't?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Some days I don't know. The guilt is overwhelming. But then I think, if I died too, what would their life have meant? What would my surviving have been for?" He gestured to the lantern. "I can't bring back people I've lost, but I can use what they taught me to help someone else find their way through darkness. That doesn't erase loss, but it gives it meaning." Kessa looked at this human who spent 3 days searching alien forests for strangers, who shared his supplies without hesitation, who kept his light burning so she wouldn't walk through darkness alone. "Thank you," she said, "for not letting me stay lost." "Thank you," Marcus replied, "for giving me someone to find." The rescue shuttles arrived an hour later. Officials were relieved, grateful, devastated by the crew's loss. But through all the chaos, Kessa kept watching Marcus, the human who walked through darkness carrying light so a stranger wouldn't have to find her way alone. 6 months later, Kessa was assigned to a joint human-Thessian research initiative studying extreme environment survival. Dr. Marcus Webb was her co-lead. They worked well together, his dark world knowledge, her disaster survival experience, both understanding viscerally what it meant to navigate darkness and emerge changed. One evening, working late, Kessa asked if he still thought about Umbral 9's darkness. "Every day," Marcus admitted, "but differently now. Not as the place I went to hide, but as the place I learned that darkness is only unbearable when you face it alone. With light, even small light, you can find your way through anything." Kessa nodded, understanding completely. She thought about 3 days wandering lost and terrified, about the moment she saw his lantern and followed it toward hope. "I still see it in nightmares," she confessed. "The crash, the darkness, the certainty I'd die there. But then I see your light and I remember, I didn't die. Because someone was brave enough to walk through that darkness looking for survivors." Marcus smiled, gentle and sad and hopeful. "Then maybe we both found what we needed. I needed someone to help. You needed someone who wouldn't stop looking. Turns out darkness is easier when you're not facing it alone." Years later, their survival protocol research saved lives across multiple species. But when Kessa taught disaster psychology, she always included one lesson: the importance of being light for others in darkness, of refusing to let people stay lost. And she told her students about a human xenobotanist who spent 3 days searching alien forests in perpetual night, who shared his light with a stranger, who proved that the most human thing in the galaxy is refusing to let someone navigate darkness alone. Because sometimes the path home isn't found by following stars. Sometimes it's found by following the warm glow of someone else's humanity, their refusal to abandon you, their willingness to share their light even when their own darkness nearly consumed them. That, Kessa learned on Umbral 9, is what hope looks like. Not the absence of darkness, but the presence of someone brave enough to carry light through it and patient enough to wait while you find your strength to walk beside them.